It's Friday here on The Story, and tonight, the influence of the Oregon Nurses Association continues to grow as more than 2,000 legacy nurses vote to join its ranks. So what does that mean for patients? Plus, deja vu. The city of Portland goes head-to-head with the Trump administration for the second time in the fight over federal funding for sanctuary cities. But first, police face all kinds of dangers on the job. Now, new concerns over something they wear all the time: the handgun strapped to their waist, firing without warning. It's our big story tonight. There's growing evidence the gun hundreds of Washington officers carry could fire without the trigger being pulled. There's video of similar things happening across the country, with one specific gun model at the center of it all. So what's being done about it? Chris Ingalls has the story.
We got medics and officers in around.
It's a frightening call for police to respond to.
Hang in there, Currington.
A fellow officer down, blood flowing from a gunshot wound to his leg. There's confusion.
You sure there was no shooter?
Over who fired the shot.
Sir? There was a shooter?
Yeah. There wasn't? It just went off? Okay.
It just went off, okay.
Police officer Kevin Currington wasn't in a gun battle. He was simply locking the gate for the evening at Northside Park in LaGrange, Texas last June. Evidence soon pointed to his own duty weapon.
Sig, 9mm.
Somehow firing in the holster.
You did shoot yourself? It just went off, right?
It was in the holster.
So there is no suspect.
Officer Currington survived the shooting and became possibly the latest victim of the Sig Sauer P320 handgun. A version of the Sig P320 is the handgun of the United States military, and hundreds of thousands more are used by civilians and police.
Shooters, watch your threat.
But today, you won't find a single one on the firing line here.
3 left side, 3 right side.
At the facility that trains all police officers in Washington state. That's because the executive director of the Washington Criminal Justice Training Commission temporarily banned the P320 in October, even though several police departments want their recruits to use them.
We need to bring some people together and have a conversation about what's next. We cannot afford to have a recruit get hurt. And everybody says, as long as you keep your finger off the trigger, you're safe. And then that doesn't come true. That is scary.
Her team, a mix of firearms and law enforcement experts, has been investigating incidents involving the P320.
Just recently added some stuff from a local agency that had some issues and went away from the Sig Sauer.
Through records requests, King 5 obtained some of the evidence they're evaluating, starting with this October incident at the Training Commission's firing range in Spokane. Zooming the video, we see a Yakima police recruit drawing his P320. There's a cloud of dust to his right as a bullet strikes the ground, narrowly missing the trainee next to him. This report said the recruit's trigger finger was not on the trigger or in the trigger guard. That statement from a firearms instructor is evidence the P320 fired on its own.
There was an instructor right there, and he was actually watching the recruit, and the recruit did not have his finger on the trigger.
That October incident launched the Training Commission's investigation, which turned up a handful of other cases in Washington, none with injuries.
What the hell?
And many more nationwide.
My gun just went off.
Did you enjoy law enforcement?
100%. That was my goal as a young child.
This former sheriff's deputy was one of the victims.
In my patrol car, getting caught up on reports, whatever, go to get out of my car, getting ready to take my gun off in its holster. As I'm removing my admin holster, it shot me straight in the femur.
That's a law firm's animation of the 2018 incident that ended the 7-year career of Loudoun County, Virginia deputy Marcy Vadnais.
I lost my career, my marriage, still to date, it still affects me mentally, physically. I should not have to worry about if I manipulate a weapon inside a holster fully seated in a holster, that it's going to shoot me in my thigh.
What do you think that we're still talking about this all these years later?
There's a serious problem with this gun. It should not be on store shelves to this date. Somebody is going to lose their life.
Sig Sauer did not respond to our messages for a comment, but it has fiercely defended the P320.
So we have representatives here from Sig Sauer. We reached out.
In this November meeting with the Training Commission work group,
holsters with wide apertures, that's a very big concern.
Sig Sauer employees offered alternative explanations for why P320s fired in some of those videos. And it says lab tests by Sig and the Army have never resulted in an unintended discharge.
It simply cannot happen. Okay, that sequence of components in there and the way that they are engineered does not allow this gun to just fire on its own.
That's their truth and that's their facts, and I'm not here to argue with that. I just want to see all the facts.
How many cases like this are you aware of?
Well over 200 at this point.
Connecticut attorney Jeff Bagnell has filed 24 lawsuits against Sig, including one that ended in a confidential settlement for Marcy Vadnais.
I've been calling for this gun to be recalled for at least 8 years now.
But federal law protects gun manufacturers from mandatory recalls, even though Bagnell and others argue the gun's striker firing mechanism is a design flaw.
In the newer lawsuits, we're seeing the municipalities being named as a defendant because they had knowledge of the problem, and yet they still put it into the hands of their police officers.
Meaning, a decision to permanently ban the P320 at the Academy would reverberate through law enforcement across the state.
Because it is so unpredictable. It's literally like setting a ticking time bomb wherever it's sitting, waiting for it to go off.
That was Chris Ingalls reporting. The executive director at the Washington Training Center expects to make a decision soon whether to permanently ban the P320. Right now, that ban is temporary. Now, we reached out to the biggest law enforcement agencies in Oregon to see if they use the P320. Most of them who got back to us said no. Portland, Gresham, Oregon State Police, and the Marion County Sheriff's Office do not use it. As far as training officers goes, Oregon's Department of Public Safety Standards and Training, which runs Oregon's Police Academy, says they only have one that's used by staff. They told us they're monitoring the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission's review of the use of the P320 in its facilities. And we will remain attentive to the issue to ensure Oregon's law enforcement officers continue to receive safe, high-quality training. Civilians who own the gun could also be in danger. Generally, it's the same gun police use. There was one federal lawsuit filed by a Pierce County, Washington man in 2020. He said his gun fired in the holster, wounding his leg. His lawyer said he would not comment for this story because of a confidential court settlement. The city of Portland is joining a lawsuit against the Trump administration after the president cut off federal funding to sanctuary cities. Right after taking office, Trump signed a number of executive orders on immigration. Among those was one called Protecting the American People Against Invasion. It directs federal agencies to cut off federal funding for sanctuary jurisdictions like Portland. Portland has been a sanctuary city since 2017, and the state of Oregon has been a sanctuary state for nearly 40 years, meaning no local money or staff is used to help federal immigration officers.
Since taking office on January 20, the Trump administration has targeted sanctuary cities with executive orders and actions designed to pressure us into carrying out their immigration enforcement agenda. Immigration enforcement is the responsibility of federal immigration and customs enforcement agents, not local jurisdictions.
This isn't the first time Portland has taken on the Trump administration over federal funding and sanctuary status. In 2018, Portland joined the state of Oregon in a lawsuit and won. A federal judge ruled the administration had to release the state's funding. Mayor Keith Wilson and Portland City Council President Ilana Pertolgini both said that Portland's law enforcement officers need to be focused on Portland's issues, not the federal government's.
Since the Trump administration took office, we have accepted many changes, some of them changing back within just a few days. But this change is federal overreach, and we must push back. We are going to follow state and federal law. And while the feds may be in charge of our immigration laws, they are not in charge of our local law enforcement. We need to focus our local resources on local policing needs. It is our right as a city, in fact, to devote those resources to our local police.
So what's the impact now? Overall, the city gets about $344 million from the federal government, which makes up about 4% of the city's budget, and goes towards transportation, housing, and public safety. Portland City Attorney Robert Taylor says the city has been awarded about $10 million for 12 grants from the U.S. Department of Justice that hasn't yet been dispersed. It would go toward things like body-worn cameras for police officers, clearing the rape kit backlog, and violence prevention programs. But the president's executive order now has that money tied up unless a judge rules in favor of the city in this lawsuit. We'll be watching.
The pulse in the room was just electric. It was so exciting watching all of those yeses roll in.
Major developments today at 3 Portland hospitals. More than 2,000 nurses at Legacy Emmanuel, Randall Children's Hospital, and Good Samaritan Hospital voted to join the Oregon Nurses Association labor union. They're calling this an unprecedented show of solidarity and a historic victory. This week's vote received near unanimous support from nurses at all 3 hospitals. This means nurses there will create bargaining teams and start negotiating their first union contracts as part of ONA. Here's what some of them told me today.
This is so exciting. We have been working for decades to have this happen.
This is going to lead to nurses who have more and better resources to take care of their patients. The community is going to feel that.
I think it's great to have protection and to have a voice at the table. I think having such an overwhelming support show up to vote yes just shows how excited people are.
A spokesperson from Legacy Health sent us the following statement, reading in part, quote, "Legacy Health respects the rights of our employees to choose whether or not to be represented by a union, and we are committed to establishing a productive dialogue with the union representatives that will be working with Legacy on behalf of our employees." Now, this move to unionize comes as a merger between Legacy Health and OHSU is on the horizon, with the nurses telling me that there are a lot of unknowns with the merger, calling it uncharted territory. This also comes as nearly 5,000 healthcare workers at 8 Providence hospitals have been on the picket lines for nearly a month, marking the largest healthcare worker strike in state history. And in just the last hour, we learned that strike will continue. A tentative agreement was reached late Wednesday night, and union members voted over the past day and a half on whether or not to accept it. But 83% of those who voted said no. Some hospitalists at Providence St. Vincent have until tomorrow afternoon to vote on their own tentative contracts. But for nurses in the Portland area, the strike goes on. Providence said late this evening they're disappointed that nurses didn't agree to the deal. Now, I asked Legacy nurses today if they foresee a strike on the horizon and what their top concerns are. And no surprise, it comes down to higher wages and safe staffing.
We're focused on starting a contract, and I have a really good relationship with Legacy and Randall leadership, and I have tons of respect for them, so I'm hopeful that we can, bargain on a good contract in good faith.
They recently passed a bill here in Oregon for safe staffing, and it's been a challenge having the staffing actually meet what the law says. So a lot of nurses are going without breaks because there's just no one to send them on a break.
How hard is that?
It's really tough. It's a 12-hour shift, and if you don't have time to go replenish yourself, get a snack, just take a break, it gets really tiring.
Now, time will tell if the Legacy nurse unionization will have an impact on patient care through a strike or something else. We'll keep you posted. And this weekend on Straight Talk, Stephanie Domerat sits down with labor experts to talk about the increase of strikes nationwide over the last 2 decades. Everything from historical trends to how the new Trump administration influences collective action. Straight Talk airs Saturday and Sunday at 6:30 and again on Monday at 7. Watch it here on KGW or anytime on our streaming app, KGW+. All right, now let's get to some of your thoughts on our big story from last night regarding street racing and a state law that allows prosecutors to permanently confiscate the vehicles used in the illegal activity. We walked through the process last night, focused on the city of Portland and the Multnomah County DA's office. Since the state law went into effect in June 2023, through January 31st of this year, Multnomah County data shows there have been 14 vehicle forfeiture cases. 5 were dismissed due to process issues. 4 are pending forfeiture hearings. 3 vehicles were returned to a financial institution. Basically, the driver had not paid off the car yet. And just 2 have actually been seized by law enforcement. Now, you filled our inboxes when we asked what you think about criminal forfeiture, as it's called. A viewer named Lori told us the number of cases in Multnomah County should be way higher than 14.
I'm very appalled that it's only been used 14 times, these confiscating these cars. We know that's the ticket. We need to do more of that. I don't care if they spend a single day in jail. It's the loss of the car. And we should have a fleet of those by now.
The Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez says his office will absolutely go after the vehicles of street racers. And the majority of your comments are in favor of the law, but many want to see it take a few steps further.
I'm a retired circuit court judge, and these guys need to have their cars forfeited. They need to go to jail, and they need to pay a fine and have their driver's license suspended.
Todd wrote to us, driving is a privilege, not a right. Yank the car and the license with no way to ever get a license again.
Yes, I think that you definitely have to hit them in the pocket, not only take and confiscate the cars forever, but fine them really hard so that they won't keep playing around and thinking that they can keep getting away with this.
And we heard from viewer Elizabeth, who wrote, I was a street racer in the 1970s. We didn't take over intersections or race through crowded streets. That is certainly not the case now. I am 100% for law enforcement taking any and all measures, including car forfeiture, to reduce and discourage takeovers and racing on public roads. Now, some of you wondered what happens to the cars after they're forfeited to law enforcement. In Portland, they are transferred to the police bureau. PPB tells us they then have a few options. They can use them potentially for things like training. They could auction them off and get a portion of the proceeds, or they could send them to the junkyard if they aren't worth much. The first car they seized under the law last summer is still in a storage facility. All right, still ahead on the story, another round of rain is heading our way overnight. Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino tells us what areas should be bracing for snow and how much. That's when the story returns. The Portland Winter Light Festival kicks off tonight. You're taking a live look, wow, look at that, at Salmon Street Springs in downtown Portland. Looks like a fire-breathing dragon, my goodness. This is the 10th year of the festival and the biggest one yet. You can check out more than 250 exhibits lit up across town. Some of them are really cool, like that one right there. And there are events planned all around the city for the next 2 weeks. Just text the word LIGHTS to that number right there on your screen, 503-226-5088. And we'll text you back with a link to an article with all the dates, times, and locations for the Portland Winter Light Festival. The festival runs through next Saturday. All right, well, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino. Matt, tell us, if people want to go see those lights, what do they need to know weather-wise?
Well, they've already gotten rained on tonight if they're out there this evening, because we had a batch of showers move on through. You can see it right here. It's now exiting over through East County and out into the gorge, but there are more offshore. The main band of showers will come on shore later on tonight, and those have the potential to drop a little bit of snow, elevations 500 feet and above. So 500 to 1,000 feet. We'll get a little bit of slushy snow, potentially weather impact alert for that right now. But for the valley floor, I think it's just going to be rain showers, just simply too warm to get an all-out snow on the valley floor. This system blows on through, and then we see a shift in the pattern, and then it gets interesting, Blair. First of all, the winter weather advisory does not include the Portland metro area, but it does include the West Hill. So again, elevation is key here. The valley floor will probably see some wet snowflakes, but nothing sticking unless you're at elevation 500 to 1,000 feet. This is what it looks like. Blows on through, some snow showers in the overnight hours. We'll all sleep through that hopefully, and then just back to rain showers and sun breaks for the rest of the day. And then it clears out on Sunday after some morning fog. Now, this is when it gets interesting, is in the long range forecast here. This is the pattern as we go into Wednesday. We'll have the cold air in place. We'll have the east wind still and potentially some moisture coming in from the west. This is more of a classic Portland snow setup. Cold air, low elevations, moisture coming in off the Pacific, riding over the top. That would give us a better chance for snow around about Thursday. However, there are differences in the guidance. So this is one model. This is the American model. We call it the GFS. Brings that cold air down from the north. We get the rain Friday, and then watch. There's the cold air from the north on Monday and Tuesday. Then this system comes along from the west. Will it override the cold air? Well, this particular model takes it a little too far south. Wouldn't really have that much of an impact. And then westerly and warmer flow finally coming after that. But this is the European model, and it's different. Now watch what happens. Still brings us the cold air on Monday, so that's similar. But then this system, instead of being down here, is right off the Oregon coast. That would give us a better chance for valley snow if that were to verify. Now look at the differences in the mountain forecast here. This is that European model with the closer, snowier solution. 40 inches on Mount Hood between now and a week from Monday. This is the American model, which wasn't as snowy, the storm farther away, only about 10 inches. So big difference depending on where that low sets up. So we'll be watching that carefully in the days ahead. Today's high was 44 degrees, and we'll be about the same tomorrow. But we do have some cold mornings on the way as we go into next week because it's going to clear out. We're 42 right now. We've got rain showers. So again, it is a bit of a wet night out there if you're heading out for the lights. So rain and snow showers after midnight, turning to all rain showers, temperature staying above freezing, so no sticking snow on the valley floor. But look at these morning lows, Blair. We go down to 27 on Monday, 24 Tuesday, 22 on Wednesday, and we'll be watching Thursday very carefully for another potential valley snow. We're back after this.
Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. You can stream the story on your own schedule. Download the free KGW Plus app, available now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. And we will leave you with another live look at some of the lights for the Portland Winter Light Festival. There's that dragon again. It's getting underway tonight. Have a great weekend. I'll see you right back here on Monday night at 6:30.